You're listening to the God Life Culture Podcast, where faith
and what's trending collide. Welcome back to the latest episode of the God Life Culture Podcast. This is Eddie.
What's up, everyone? This is Miguel, and we are so thankful that you are tuned in for another episode of the God Life Culture Podcast. We want you right now to take a moment to hit that subscribe button wherever you are listening to us, whether it's on Apple, Spotify. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you click that subscribe button. Comment, like, share, do all of the things. Welcome back to a brand new episode. We have a lot of things we want to get into today, right? All is good over here. The weather is nice. Summer is approaching, and all of those good things definitely just lift everyone's moods. It makes everyone's day just better when the weather is better, when the sun is out longer, and we're excited to get into today's conversation.
Yeah, I think today's conversation is an interesting one. We'll be getting into subject matter later on in this episode that I think a lot of people could relate to in one moment or another, and their experience with it may be different also depending on their situation. But before we get to that, we've been trying out this new thing, which is called the
Music Feature of the Week, where we just highlight and spotlight brand new artists or just, collaborations, new music that is out that we think you should be aware of. So, Eddie, let us know about the music feature for this week.
Yes, so everyone should be familiar with Alex Campos. And then last year, we had one of our guests, Angie Rose, who was here, a Latina from the Bronx that was killing it with her, the music that she had released and all of that. And then now they have a collaboration called Agua. They also have a music video called Agua as well, which is a really cool take on a Bible story.
Yeah.
And I'm going to leave it at that. I want you guys to, check out the music. As always, we ask, when we have these music features, it's because we think the music is great. If there's a music video, we think it's great also. But it's also because we like to encourage you guys to go out there and support the artist. So I want you to look at the music video. I want you to take it in, observe it. Halfway through it, it's gonna make it a little bit clear what's it about. But what's your take on that? What do you think about the music video? You thought it was hot? You thought it was interesting? You thought like, oh man, I never thought about it that way. But always support. So make sure you go out and you look at Agua by Alex Campos and Angie Rose. And we also have a different music feature for today, Miguel. Which one is that one?
Yeah, so Torrin Wells has released another song from his upcoming album. His album is called Joy in the Morning. It's coming out June 10th, but he has released a song called Come Home. And he writes in the caption on social media, this song is an important reminder that no matter how far you've been or felt, no matter the doubts and questions you have on faith or spirituality, there is a God who loves you and is waiting for you. I love the song. I love the vibe of the song. I think it's a great song for those individuals who may be struggling with their faith, with trusting and believing in God, with maybe contemplating walking away and all of those different feelings that, I think at one point or another we go through in this Christian walk. So I love how Torrin Wells kind of encapsulated all of those feelings and emotions and just, put pen to paper and definitely, wrote a great song that I know a lot of people will receive comfort from. And, just acknowledgement that, man, people know, they see, they are aware. And more importantly, God knows and is aware. So definitely go and check out Torrin Wells' new song, new video titled Come Home from his upcoming album, Joy in the Morning.
Yes. So now moving towards the actual topic we have on hand, I think the best way to just get the conversation started is, how do you feel when you go to someone for advice on a situation, and what comes out of them after you spend 30 minutes pouring your heart and soul, after you cried maybe, or you maybe put yourself out there vulnerably for them, and the only response you get from them is, all right, just pray about it. How does that make you feel?
I mean, I think that statement alone, right, is thrown out a lot. And I think it would bring me to a point of feeling that this person just did not hear everything I just said, or has no idea what to say.
Yeah.
And is just choosing to, have a cop-out moment and just kind of say, oh, just pray about it. I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? I think that this response is a popular one.
Yes.
And sometimes it's popular in, when it's vocalized, when people say, oh, just pray about it. But other times, I think just by people's attitudes and response and reaction to what you share, sometimes gives off the... well, there's really nothing you can do. So you pray about it. You know what I mean? I think that, yes, there are moments where prayer is key.
Yes.
Prayer, should be like your first response when things go wrong and left in your life. You should cry out to God. You should, talk to him and have a consistent prayer life. But I think that if we put a period there, right, that's where it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
Where I feel like sometimes, or not sometimes, a lot of times, many times, our prayer needs to be attached to works and action and movement. You need to do something. So for someone to just categorize and sit there and soak everything in of what you just said and just tell you, just pray about it, I would question a lot about that person, their perspective, and our connection and relationship and friendship, whatever it is.
Yeah. I think that it's a difficult thing because there is a way to say that and it hold weight that you understood what the person was telling you, but that you've come to the conclusion of, I don't have the answer for you, or I don't have the solution for you, but I know that if we went to prayer about this, something will happen, right? And I feel that when it is said or delivered in a way that is not like that and is just in a dismissive way, or just pray about it, it removes the weight of importance that prayer can have in the situation. Yeah. And I think that the reason why that happens a lot is because of the Christianism or the Christian lingo that we have sometimes, in where we just say stuff to say it, but not really pay attention to the weight and the importance of it, but then there are situations where you could, like, there are situations where something can be done. So I think in any situation where anyone goes to you for an advice or is sharing with you a tough situation that they're going through, whether it be financial, emotional, spiritual, whatever, prayer should always be in the conversation regardless. But then there are situations where something can be done, where it's kind of like, you know what? Let me think about it. Like, I think there's something that we can do, but I don't have the answer at the moment. Just give me a couple of days. Like, I feel like there's a way of delivering. I don't really know how we can help you at this moment, but let's workshop it together and let's figure it out. And I think that the real big issue is that when you dismiss somebody with just pray about it, you're cleaning yourself or absolving yourself from any responsibility to have to check up on that person. Yeah. So it's kind of like, well, that's your problem. You pray about it and you figure it out and you deal with it, and hopefully something will come out. When what the person is looking for is a shoulder to cry on, or someone to feel supported by. And yes, praying with them is part of that thing, but sometimes it takes a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times, looking at a different perspective of that pray about it response, I think a lot of times the individual who may say this can sometimes be in a place, because I've heard this before, where what they heard or what this individual just told them is a lot. Yeah. Right? A lot to take in, something that maybe was unexpected. They didn't expect for something like this to come from them. It's something shocking. It's something that could be triggering, right? Yep. So you say, just pray about it as a way because you really don't know what to say or have never experienced that. So I think a lot of times it falls in the category of, because that is not my experience, I don't know what to tell you, and I've learned that, yes, that is true. People have different experiences. You won't be able to fully connect or relate to someone 100%, because you're not in their shoes. Yeah. Even with similar situations and experiences, you're not in that person's shoes to know 100% what it is that they're telling you, right? But what you can do is pull from your own experiences, right? So it's in the sense of, we're talking about, feeling abandoned, right, by a parent, let's say. But for you feel like, well, I don't know what that is because I have a good relationship with my parents or good, connections with them. And, that's not my issue. But I know what it is to be abandoned. Yeah. Or I know what it is to be lonely, because there have been moments in my life where, I didn't have that many friends, or the friends I did have, we had conflict and it didn't work out and I felt betrayed and I felt hurt. So you pull from those experiences of what it is is to feel hurt and what it is to feel abandoned. And now you're kind of almost able to at least relate on the feeling and the emotion, right? Obviously, it will never be, on that level or that exact thing. But it's a way for you to just not say, well, just pray about it, because honestly, I really don't know what to say. I don't know how that feels. I've never been through that. I've never known somebody to go through that. I don't know. Pull from the experiences that you do know and the emotions that you have felt, and be that bridge that can kind of, then connect with that individual.
And I think that that's an important thing to realize, that you do have a responsibility that when someone goes to you with a situation, whether or not you have the answers or the tools or the whatever, that there is a level of empathy that is felt. The worst thing that someone can do is, that someone came to you in a moment of vulnerability and that you made them feel like it was a waste of time. So it is quite possible. We're human. We don't know all the experiences. We don't know all the answers. We don't know all the solutions. There are times where the Holy Spirit jumps in and gives you a word, and that's the word that they needed. And then there's other times where it doesn't work that way. Right. So then in those situations, then it's like you said, you kind of try to pull from your experiences to make sure that this person feels understood, feels heard, feels listened to, and that you're there to help them in whatever way you can help them. But I also think that when this is used, because there's times that things are put on social media that starts like these debates and these controversies and these conversations, and I think that somebody may post something like that. I just pray about it, and then there'll be a whole internet thread about, oh, that's so messed up, churches need to do better, and they go through like this whole big thing of like a bashing. But then the question also is, where in the timeline of this conversation did this person tell you that? Because it's quite possible that you've been having an ongoing conversation with someone about an issue where they've given you advice, where they've prayed for you, they've fasted, like they've gone above and beyond, but you're the one that's not getting it right. But you keep going to them about it. So I think that it's okay when it comes to a point where, like, in plain English, like, my dude, I've gone above and beyond to help you with this situation. You seem to not be doing your part. I think you need to pray about it. So there are times where I think that it arises an opportunity where you kind of have to tell somebody, like, listen, you really need to pray about that. Like, there's nothing that I'm going to tell you that's going to help you, because you're not even doing the legwork for it. Like, you aren't even investing in it fully the way that you should be investing in it. And you want a solution, but you're not willing to put in the work for the solution. So then you need to go pray about that, because there's nothing I can do on my end.
Yeah, and there are things that I think merit a spiritual action. So there are things that, you definitely need to pray about that. You definitely should fast and like go to church way more and read his word, and definitely, right? So it's not kind of dismissing the idea that prayer is not good enough, right? Or that prayer is not enough for things, right? But there are specific things in life and moments in life and seasons where prayer definitely needs to be coupled with action.
Yes.
So I think a lot of times, we place in, certain expectations on leaders, right, in our life, whether it's pastors or teachers or people that we look up to, where we may go to them and may get a similar response like this, right? And that opens up a whole different perspective and conversation, right? Because if this is what your leader is giving you, and this is the first conversation you've had, and you're pouring out just things that you probably never said to anyone, and you're getting personal, and you really desire help, and you're going to this person that you think can help you and at least give you some advice and wise counsel, and their response is simply pray about it, and they don't give you any practical tips, they don't give you anything that you can actually do, and they just leave it at that. I understand you should definitely feel a certain type of way, right? But then, like you said, there are moments where a lot of conversations have happened. We've met so many times. I've spoken to you about things. I've told you things, and certain things I said to do or try to do, you haven't done, or I see that you're not really putting your part, right? So then there does come a point where you have to almost, as a leader, wash your hands of that situation, say, I've done all I can. Now this is up to you. And I feel like a lot of people who go the route when saying this phrase and talking about it, right? They come from a negative perspective. Unfortunately, it can be the perspective of individuals who have gone through a situation like that, where they may not have done everything they should have done, could have done. They probably did not do what, or taken the advice the way they should have,
Yeah.
and they didn't see results, and they were just told at the end, well, then you need to pray about this situation, right? And yes, you do, but at the same time, there needs to be steps and action that you take. Have you listened to the advice? Have you done some of those practical steps? You know what I mean? Have you tried to get out of this situation? And a lot of times we place expectations on leaders or on people to give us all of the solutions.
Yeah.
Tell me exactly what I need to do. Tell me where I should go. Who do I need to talk to? How do I handle this? What do I tell them? What do I say to him? What do I say to her? What do I do? And there are times where maybe your leader can tell you and give you specifics and let you know, listen, if I were in this situation, you know, this is the route I would take. But then there are things that they can give you some advice and some counsel, but the decision is up to you. And you have to make that decision and pray about it yourself.
Yeah.
And I think when we place those false expectations on leaders to give us answers, it could be a problem.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was like, I think that we, as a church in general, have been really good at laying down a foundation to people in the church, for example, to go to their leaders for anything. Like, if you have an issue, if you're going through something, go to your leader, go to your pastor, go to your this, go to your that, because they'll help you. Which it is true. They are there to help you. But I think there is a elevated or crazy expectation that is put on leaders to have the answers for everything. Yeah. They will not have the answers for everything. And I think that when you find yourself in a predicament where you're going to a leader for help, or you're going to a friend or anybody for help, and you're expecting them to have the answer for you and they don't, you're then walking out of that conversation feeling a certain type of way, whether it's disillusion, whether it's hurt, whether it's let down. But it's like you put an expectation on a human to have an answer for something that you're going through, when they're human themselves and may have never even experienced that. Well, maybe you're banking on the fact, oh yeah, but they're a leader. They're supposed to be super connected. So they have a lifeline to God and they can just call him and be like, yo, God, so-and-so is going through something. What do you want me to tell them? It doesn't work that way. you know? Yeah. So then it's kind of like when they find themselves in that situation, instead of them having a realization like, you know what? Like, yeah, I get it. Like, they're not going to have the answer. They're human. You know, they go through their own stuff too. And maybe it's something that's a new experience for them. It's not relatable. Instead of them coming to the realization of they're human in a good way, they come to a realization that they're human in a negative light. And that's where they get bitter. And that's when they start talking about their leaders, or that's when they start talking about churches and stuff like that, because they're looking at them as a solution to something when in reality, you should be going to God about this. Yes, they're a vessel that can help you. And yes, they should guide you. And yes, they should provide support. But they're not going to give you the answer to the situation. So the quicker you realize that they're not there to give you the answer, but to help facilitate a way for you to get to the answer, I think you'll find yourself in a better position.
That was very good.
Was it?
Right. That was good. That was good. Because I think, again, people want the answer, and it's like, you know what? I can't really give you the answer, but I can bring you there, right? Or I can guide you so you can
point you in
the
right direction.
I can bring you into the right direction, you know? And I think a lot of times going along with the expectations part of it, our pastors, a lot of our pastors and leaders in general that you would go to for certain things, they are, some of them, not professionals. So in the sense of, you know, mental health.
Yes.
They did not go to school for that. They don't have a degree in psychology. They don't have a degree in mental stuff, anything like that, right? Marriage. They may have an effective marriage. They may have been married for 30, 40, 50 years, right? But they may not have the professional, right? I guess knowledge, you can say, where they're a professional licensed marriage counselor or therapist or, you know, social worker and all these things. So there are moments where I feel like, yes, talk to your pastor, talk to your leader, but that shouldn't be the only conversation you're having. Yes. And if you are simply depending on the pastor or the leader to help save your marriage, then I think you have, you know, of this illusion, like you say, that that's what it's going to be. I feel like that is the start. Now it's like, okay, we've spoken to like the spiritual leader and advisor in our life, the person that does pray for us because that is a part of a pastor and leader's job to pray, right? But it's like, what else are we going to do now? There are Christian counselors, Christian therapists. There are people that you can see, research that you can do on your own, right? Like, you know, listening to other people's stories and researching and seeing other people have gone through similar things, right? Obviously having a biblical worldview and all of those things, but knowing that there is work you have to do.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when we speak on the church negatively or with bitterness and resentment, and we speak on these issues and we talk about the times where we were just told to pray, you know, even if you were told to pray and that was it, and you poured your heart out and your soul and you said all of the things and you were just given the response, well, you just need to pray about it and ask the Lord. Even if that was the response, if you were that desperate and if you were that in such a place of, you know, worry and concern and in need of help and a word and something, then if that didn't work, you would have went somewhere else. You would have went to to a different fountain, a different well, a different person to help you, to give you insight, wisdom, counsel, all those things. And I think it's so easy, you know, in those moments to receive the negative response, right? That response we didn't like, and then just stay stuck because we received the response that we weren't expecting or that we didn't want. Even if they're wrong and you're right? In the sense of, man, like they were kind of messed up and just brushed me off. Even if it was done negatively and it was wrong, that still isn't enough for you to just sit and stay stuck in your situation. Do something.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think that we find a lot of people that do that, where, you know, they went to one person, whatever, the leader for the cleaning ministry, and they went to that person for advice, and the person didn't give them the advice that they thought they should have received or necessarily wanted to hear. So all of a sudden, they're done. Like, oh, I tried. I spoke to a person that was supposed to help me. They didn't help me. There's nothing else I can do. I'm just going to sit here in my mess. And it's kind of like, that's a cop-out. You're using that as a scapegoat because you really don't want to do the work. Because the reality of the situation is, whether you find yourself in a financial situation, in a mental situation, a spiritual situation, whatever, emotional situation, you have to put in work to get yourself to a better place. Yes, the leader, your friend, whoever, can be there to help you and guide you. But at the end of the day, you are the one that has to put in the work. And if you're not willing to put in the work, it doesn't matter if the person gave you a 10-step program on how to get out of it. You're not doing the program. So, you know, you have to be willing to understand that I reached out to somebody. Maybe they didn't give you the whole answer, but they gave you a piece of the puzzle. So now you have to go and be like, okay, how can I apply that piece of the puzzle? Maybe I can find something else somewhere else. And you start putting the pieces together, because unfortunately in this life, it doesn't, no matter, even if you serve the Lord, it doesn't work where there is a one-way solution for everything.
Yeah.
For everybody is different. Me and you could be going through the exact same thing. The solution for me is going to be completely different than the solution for you, because we're two totally different people with two totally different personalities. We think differently. Like, that's just the way that it is. But if I went through something, me and you went through something similar, and I went through it and I surpassed it and I came out to the other side, all glorious and all that other stuff, or whatever, there's something in that journey that I can give you that may help you along your way, but it may not necessarily be the answer.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to say. The fact that we want all the steps, we want everything told to us, right? But it's like, again, it's going to be different for you. Yeah. You know, I can give you the 10 steps that worked for me, or I can give you the 10 steps that work for this person, but your journey and your process is going to be way different. Yes. You know, and having to learn that and be accepting of the fact that you can get the exact recipe, you can get the exact steps, but your journey and how you go through things and what happens in your life is different based on character, personalities, based on where you live and your job, based on your home, your family. Do you have kids? Do you not? Are you single? Are you married? Right? There's so many different factors that will affect the situation, where everyone's story is so different and everyone's journey is different, you know? But when we look at this word, or this phrase, right, just pray about it. Again, it's one of those things where it's hard, because I never want to come across as dismissive of the power of prayer, right? Because I think it can come across that way sometimes, if not explained or given its context, right? Prayer is powerful. right?
Yeah.
There are moments where you really need to pray about it and actually not talk to anyone else about it, you know, because then we look at the other extreme of the individuals who go around sharing and oversharing to everybody, right? Making the situation worse, okay? And then they're not praying about it, and actually no one is telling them to pray about it, you know? And they're just kind of like listening and soaking it in. And then come to find out, there are a lot of people that know of your situation through your word of mouth, but also through their word of mouth, right? So it's the idea that you just have to be careful with the things that you share, how you come across with the delivery of, you know, of sharing this information. And then if you are the person listening, and if the response really is, I really just think like this is something God can help you in, and only Him, how do you say just pray about it, right? In the most polite way possible and in the most honest way. I think if someone were to give the response, just pray about it, and if it was said honestly, and if it was said with, you know, just that vulnerability and transparency of like, listen, this really is what I think you need to be doing, I think that person will feel it. You know, and they'll know. So I think the problem lies when it's done in a way like we've been talking, where it's dismissive and where it's, you know, I really have my own stuff going on right now. I really can't sit to try to like figure out your life and get yourself together. So you're just gonna have to pray about it.
But I think it's more about, like I said, the other person being supportive. Yeah. So if the solution is, well, you just gotta pray about it. So that it's not just pray about it. It's like, you know what? I think we should pray about it. Yeah. So you know what? Let's take the next 3 days, and you know what? We'll fast together. Or the next 3 days, you'll text me. I'm up. Let's pray. Like, you know, there's ways to do it where the person doesn't feel like they're doing it alone.
And make sure you show up. So like when you say like, let's pray and fast the next 3 days, that individual should be there with you, right? Like the individual that's asking
with the problem,
right? Because again, it's like, this isn't me just praying for you by myself. This was,
that's why I said you text me when you're up. Right. We will pray together.
And then we will pray together. Yeah. Because then that's the other thing where it's like, you know, you just want the solution. You want, you know, people to do things for you, but then again, you're not putting in the work yourself. Yeah. And that is, you know, sometimes popular.
And I think that's the way that it comes off supportive. Because like you said, there are times where that is the solution. The solution is just pray about it. So let's do it together, because I'm going to be there to support you. I'm going to be there to help you. I'm going to be there to fight with you. I'm going to be there to, you know, grind away and do it together. We'll do it together. And I think that that's received better than you just telling the person to do it on their own. Because I think at the end of the day, if they're coming to you, you have to provide some form of support, however that looks. That's the support you do it. But then I do also think that there are situations that are given where a person, you know, may be going through a situation where you can actually physically provide for them. You know, so whether it is that, you know, the person's going through a financial situation, you may not have the money for it or whatever, but you know that if you speak to 2 or 3 of your friends, be like, listen, you know, Miguel is going through a really tough time at the moment, whatever the situation is, all of y'all just, you know, hook me up with whatever you can. I want to give him a special offering. Or you know what, I want to do him a compra. We say compra. How you say that in English?
Shop for food shopping.
I want to do a compra for them because they're going through a really tough time. Let's, you know, whatever. You can do that on your own, or you can get 2 or 3 people that you trust that you know they're not going to go around telling their business to do that with you. So there are situations there's practical things that you can do, whether it's a situation like that or whatever. And then there's other situations that are a lot bigger, a lot more complex, a lot more deep, that really it's kind of like you need to go to a professional and you need to pray about it. I'm not the professional, so I'm going to help you with the part that I can, which is to pray about it.
Yeah. And it's funny because I think there's so many people with, you know, experiences like this, you know, and there's so many people that can relate, and so many people that at one point or another, whether it was a church leader or a friend, that you just, you know, again, poured your heart out and just felt like they didn't give you what you wanted, or like they didn't give you enough of that connection or emotion that you were expecting. You know, there's so many people that have that story. And I think that you now have the choice, right? You have the choice to talk about it, right? And talk about how hurt you felt and how negative the experience was, and how, you know, this leader, this pastor, this friend didn't do anything and just told me to pray about it, right? Or you have the option to then learn and grow and know that even those people who you think will be there, who you think will have the right answers, who you think will have the wise thing for you to say, right, may sometimes not. Yeah, and having to be okay with knowing that, you know what, I'm learning from that experience that I can't put all my eggs in one basket. I can't just, think that because this is who this individual is, they're going to give me exactly what I needed to hear. Yes. And even if it's their fault, and they didn't handle it correctly and they were dismissive, even if it's their fault. Yeah. Knowing that, how do I grow from this?
Yeah, but I also think another option that's on the table is you can go back to that person and tell them that. Like if you went to a leader, you went to a friend. I go to you for advice on something. You give me crappy advice or you tell me just pray about it. I'm in my feelings. I walk away. 2 days later, I'm going to come back to you. I'm like, I came to you the other day and I just felt like you really dismissed me. Or I really felt like you really didn't hear what I was saying and the importance behind it. Like people need to be okay with having those conversations.
But this is friendship 101.
Yes. Like, that is friendship 101. But that's but what I'm saying is that you can even do that with leaders in your church.
Absolutely.
Which is that if you go to a leader about something and you received a response from them that it was kind of really off, it's okay for you to go back to them and listen, you came to me, I came to you with this and you kind of came at me sideways and I just want to let you know so that if anybody else comes to you, don't treat them the way that you treated me. Like there's a conversation that needs to happen because that then helps them, hopefully. If they're mature enough, that'll help them grow and be like, you know what, snap, I really was dismissive about you in that moment and I really don't want to do that again.
And looking at the humanness of it all, right? Yeah. Because you could have went to that individual and could have expected something, you didn't get it, right? They said just pray about it. It was off, it was horrible, right? You may not know what they're going through.
True.
How many other people before you they had to talk to and sit with, right? And not that we're justifying, right, or making it whatever, but this is the reality. Yeah. Okay. You don't know what's going on in their mind, what's going on in their home, what's going on with their finances. You know what I mean? So I think there's also a certain level of grace that you need to have towards people where if you have that conversation the first time around and that's the response you get, go back. And again, like you said, express, this is how it felt when you said that, know, was that your intention? Was that and see what now that conversation is like. If you're getting it's like the same vibe and same thing, then okay, there are things you may have to accept, move on, go seek help and advice and counsel somewhere else. Yes. But if you genuinely see, I am so sorry that day, this, that, and the third happened, you know what, this is what was happening with it, right? You just don't know what's going on. And I think again it's so easy for members and people who go to churches to target leaders, you know what I mean, not just the pastors, leaders in general, right? Because of their delivery on certain things, or they didn't get what they wanted or the response they wanted or thought, not thinking about their own situations and their own struggles and their own needs, and how many people are going to them. It's a lot, it's a lot to think about. There are a lot of different factors that affect that situation. Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, prayer is always key to everything, and it should always be part of the solution you're giving to someone who's going through something. But we do ask for a little bit more humanity in those situations, where you make sure that the person feels heard, feels understood, feels supported, feels loved, because even if you don't have the solution for it, the point is that you're trying to help them get there. So yeah. So again, if you're on the receiving end of a negative, pray about it. See what you do about that. And then check them. Don't check them. Be productive, and be effective with what you do after that. Because at the end of the day, if your situation is that bad and you are in that desperate need, you do whatever it takes. So if talking to a friend didn't do anything, you'll go to a family member. If talking to a family member didn't do anything, you'll go to someone in your church. If talking to someone in your church didn't do anything, you'll go to a professional. You know what I mean? Like the list goes on and on and on. And I dare say that if you do all of that and still find for whatever reason that it's not working, then maybe the answer truly is this is a situation only God can help you in. Yeah. This could be a situation that really is between you and God, and that is always like another factor in all of this.
Yes.
This could be just a moment where God wants to speak to you and needs you to focus on what he's telling you and the process he's putting you through. Not all the time is this going to be a process that you're going through that he wants you to, share with everybody and get advice, tips, 3-step programs and all this stuff to try to get through it. Sometimes he's the one that wants to show you how to get through it. He's the one that wants you to rely on him. He's the one that wants you to really trust him 100%.
Yes.
That through your prayer life and through things that I trust and am confident that he will reveal and show and teach you what else to do on top of that and give you wisdom on who to call and where to go and what job to apply for and who to connect with. You know what I mean? Can only really come through your prayer life and your connection with him. So again, to wrap this up, prayer should definitely, be that first response. But there are moments where you got to do something else. You got to put some action. And if you're telling somebody to just pray about it, make sure you're delivering it correctly. You're not copping out. You're not trying to escape a conversation. You're not trying to be dismissive. Because again, we don't know how our reactions and our deliveries truly affect people. Yeah,
very true. And if you feel like you don't have the answers, you can always be clear with them. Be like, I have no idea. But you know what? Maybe, this other leader can, or this other person. I know this person has gone through a similar experience. Maybe they can help you out. There's always ways to navigate conversations that doesn't make the person feel like you left them out, to hang out to dry. So thank you once again for tuning in to the latest episode of the God Life Culture podcast. As always, you can reach us on our socials.
Yes, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at God Life Culture Podcast. You can subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, continue to like, share, comment, subscribe. Definitely help spread the word about our podcast. And we just pray that our conversations are encouraging, motivating, uplifting, and that you leave better than when you first started listening.
Yes. So with all that, we just want to say, just pray about it. No, imagine. Thank you once again for tuning in to the latest episode of the God Life Culture podcast. That's God Life Culture. Until next time.
See ya.
Bye.